Welcome everyone to another episode of the Respect and Pray Show. I am your host, Miguel Mike Medina, Triple M. On this episode, we have a guest that is doing so many great things. I mean, he has done a variety of positions in sports broadcasting at such a young age, from play-by-play to reporting, hosting, podcasting. He also has a background in radio and television, and working for such companies like ESPN, Citrus TV, which is part of Syracuse. The list just goes on, and I'm looking forward to showing you guys this interview to get to know a little bit more about this young man and everything he's accomplishing and the things that he wants to do going forward. So stay tuned because this will be a good one. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a great honor to present to you Jaron May. Jaron, thank you for joining me today.
Yeah, of course. Glad to be here.
All right, Mr. Syracuse.
Yes,
So,
sir.
when did you knew that you wanted to do this for a living?
So my story kind of goes back to being raised in my family, super competitive family. We competed in pretty much everything, sports, who could finish dinner first, who could get to the car first, anything. So I was always super competitive. I played sports growing up, basketball, baseball, skiing, golf, soccer, football, pretty much every single I swam. I even tried speed skating. Like I did everything. Loved it. But then I cracked my left elbow. I broke my left elbow 4 times throughout my life. And the doctor was like, you should probably stop playing competitive sports. So I wasn't able to play sports anymore, but I still loved everything to do with sports. I was still very competitive. And I found a love for public speaking just throughout life. So I kind of meshed the public speaking with the love for sports together. And that's how I got to sports broadcasting. And that still kept my competitive juices alive because although I wasn't, on the court or on the field, I was just on the sidelines and I still could be in those environments, in those competitive environments. And that's what I love to do. So yeah, that's how we got in. I kind of started in early high school and then grew from there.
What is your favorite sport?
Favorite sport? That's a good one. Probably basketball. I mean, that's the sport that I grew up playing the most. I was probably the most talented in, even though I still wasn't the best at all in my grade, in my group, whatever. I was decent, but that's probably my favorite sport. I love watching it. College basketball, nothing compares with March Madness. Love the NBA. The Celtics are my team. I got plenty of Celtic stuff in my room right now. And then I would also say just to play, I love golf these days too. It's one of the old man sports that I can still play and still kind of keep up with people. So golf to play, but basketball is my number one.
How does it feel to be part of an institution like Syracuse University?
I mean, I love Syracuse. The story that uh, my Syracuse story kind of goes back to I think it was either freshman or sophomore year of high school. Um, I was sitting in the waiting chair at my barber shop, just get a haircut. And I was like, okay, I don't have to apply for colleges now, but I'm starting to get to the point where I should be looking and kind of figuring out what I want to do. And this is also the time where I was starting to realize sports broadcasting could be a route that I wanted to go. So sitting in the waiting room chair, I pull out my phone. It's this small iPhone 4 or something like that, like the very beginnings of the iPhone, probably my first smartphone that I've ever had. And I was just sitting there and I was like, all right, Google best broadcasting schools in the country. Syracuse came up, Arizona State came up. USC came up, Maryland's, Northwestern came up, even though they're more of a journalism writing school, that type of thing. So I looked at all of those, and multiple websites had Syracuse at number one. So it seemed like Syracuse was the number one option. So I said, okay, I don't really have a favorite school or anything that I really want to go to right now. I'm going to try to go to the best. And those websites proved to be true, because once you get to Syracuse, your doors open. You get so many opportunities. It is, I mean, I just graduated, and I like all my friends are going back to school right now, classes start in, a couple days, couple weeks, whatever it may be. I am jealous, dude. I am jealous that they are going back. I wish I could do another 4 years. I'd do another 20 if I could. That is how special that university is, the area is, and the people there. It just breeds great broadcasters.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. What's the best game that you've covered at Syracuse?
It's a good question. I was really lucky. I was, because I had so many opportunities, and that's one of the best parts about Syracuse is you get a ton of opportunities if you apply yourself. So best game. I mean, there's a couple things that run through my mind. One, I got to go to the Bahamas for a week, fully paid for. I not a dime out of my pocket. It was probably the coolest experience I've ever had. We went to the Bahamas, me and Ben Schulman, one of my best friends. I was the sports director at WAER. He was my assistant sports director. And we went to the Bahamas for Thanksgiving break last year. We left on the Friday before Thanksgiving week, and then we came back, I think, like the following Saturday. So we were down there for a week and a day, week and a couple days, whatever it may have been. And we broadcasted the Battle for Atlantis, both on the women's and men's side. So Syracuse women's basketball was down there, played 3 games. We did 3 games in 3 days, had an off day. And then Syracuse men's basketball came down, 3 games in 3 days, broadcasted all 3. And that was amazing. I mean, we were in the Bahamas. We were going to the beach in the morning, or going to the pools and slides. And we went snorkeling. We swam with some sharks. It was an unbelievable experience, and something that college kids don't get and professionals barely get. You have to be the top echelon of professionals to get an opportunity like that. And Syracuse University said, you know what, we're going to set the standard. We're going to send our broadcasters there. We went through a lot of hoops to jump through to get to that point. The logistics of planning that trip were very difficult, but we figured it out. And that was a fantastic experience. Other than that, I mean, Syracuse versus Clemson in the Dome was pretty darn cool. Football wise, basketball wise, Syracuse versus Duke last Boeheim Krzyzewski game was awesome. I got to travel to some really cool places. Like we did the ACC tournament in Brooklyn. I got to go to FSU, Miami, Duke, UNC. I don't know. It was awesome. But then non-game, I know this isn't what you asked, but I just want to keep bragging about Syracuse University. It's amazing. SU sent me to the Super Bowl twice. I got to go to Super Bowl Media Week for 2 years as a junior and as a senior. I went to Tampa when the Bucks won it, and then I went to LA when the Rams won it. So yeah, I mean, that experience, I was there for an entire week, both years. And it was awesome. So there you go. Long answer.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah.
So aside from Syracuse, you're the podcast host for a show called In the Green.
Yep.
which focuses on sports betting, and sports betting is completely taking over. It completely is. So how did that come about?
Yeah. Honestly, so I'm a novice sports bettor. And I say that sitting in a room in Florida, which online sports betting is not legal yet. So I cannot online bet yet, which obviously stinks because most states are approving laws. Florida still is trying to figure out theirs, I guess. But I was a novice sports bettor. Just, once it started to get popular a couple years ago, I was like, this is something that I should pay attention to, because if you want to get into the industry, maybe this is an avenue. Um, and then one of my best friends from Syracuse, actually, his name's Noah Searson. He's now a sports reporter and anchor up in Burlington, Vermont. He started a sports betting show at Syracuse University. Um, it was kind of like a rotating show. They didn't have one host every single week. But I would get the opportunity once every other month, maybe like a couple times a year, 2 or 3 times a school year, to host a sports betting show. Um, it was called Beat the Bookie. I did it, loved it, had some success, had some failure. It's kind of hit or miss, but I was starting to get a little better at it once I got to my senior year. Then May of my senior year, right after I graduated, the Jim Nance Award, which is the award that goes out to the top collegiate sports broadcasters across the country, was given out, and I was awarded a first team All-American. So super happy, and thank you. But when that happens, just got some media coverage because of it. A lot of people started following me, realized this is who I am, that type of thing. And I wasn't the only one. There were plenty of other people honored with the award. And so one person that reached out to me after it was the CEO of Believe, one of the largest podcast networks in the entire country and the world. And he said, "Hey, I saw your stuff, saw that you're a podcaster already and that you like sports betting, and we're trying to expand. Would you have any interest?" I was like, "Yeah, I mean, I already have a full-time job, but like, can I do it on the side?" And he was like, "Yeah, that's kind of like our business plan. Like most of our people, our hosts are not full-time." I was like, "All right, where's the dotted line? Sign me up." So I, figured out some details, and actually, my first podcast will be coming out pretty darn soon. It's probably in the next day or two. So very excited about that.
I'll be looking forward to that.
Yeah. Yeah. Hopefully I give out some winners. I don't want to have a bad start to this podcast.
Right. But everything will turn out to be fine.
Right.
So that leads me to this. Where can people follow you, as well as what advice do you have for aspiring sports broadcasters?
Yeah. Twitter is probably my main platform. So if you want to follow me, it's at Jaron_May, JARON_MAY. That I probably do the most out there. You can find my Instagram too if you want it. I think it's Jaron.May. That's kind of just more of a personal thing, not really professional, but hey, if you want to follow me, please do. As for advice, there's kind of 3 things that I always tell people, especially sports broadcasters. Number one, this is I'm trying to turn into like my motto, even though I totally ripped it off from someone else. I ripped it off. I actually think he ripped it off too. But it's called Sweat the Small Things. Drew Carter, who's a Syracuse grad, he was a senior when I was a freshman. He is now working for ESPN a couple years right out of college. So that tells you how talented that guy is. I mean, if I could be anybody, I want to be Drew Carter. But he gave this lesson when he was a senior, because we kind of have a meeting at the end of each year where seniors pass down wisdom to the underclassmen. And he said this, I think he might have gotten it from someone else, or maybe he came up with it. I don't really know. I'm just stealing it from him, and he's my friend. So, Drew, if you're listening to this, I'm just gonna straight up take it from you. Is sweat the small things. So what that means is a lot of people say don't sweat the small things. Like that's the well-known saying. Don't sweat the small things. Here's the thing: if you want to be good in this industry, there's only a handful of spots. ESPN only has a handful of hosts and a handful of play-by-play people. And same thing with Fox and CBS and any of the major networks that you want to go to, NBC. Like any major sports broadcasting outlet, whether it's network, whether it's written, whether it's whatever, they only have, a certain amount of spots. They have a pretty tight rotation on their top people as well. If you want to be one of them, those men and women sweat the small things. That's why they got there. That's how they got there. They care about the minute details that the other person, their competition, is not really paying attention to. And that's why they got the job versus you or whoever else they're going up against. And that's also one of the things that I think Syracuse does really well, and especially WAER and the ACC network. I mean, we care about the small details. And when you go into a broadcast, you're going to get every single little detail correct, or we're going to find it, we're going to point it out, and we're going to correct it for the next time. We don't make the same mistake twice. So that's one thing. Sweat the small things. Advice number 2 is you gotta reach out. This advice I take from Gil Gross, who graduated a year before me, one of my very close friends as well. He was big on always reaching out and staying connected. Even if it's someone that you don't really know that much, 5 to 10 texts just to stay connected with that person. It seems like it doesn't seem like a lot, but it will pay off in the end. And that's with, friends, with like work colleagues. If there's someone that that could get you a job down the line, don't be texting them every month. Find the balance and, make sure that it's not always you asking them for stuff, especially if like they're in a higher position. Last one that I always have, this one comes from Peter Genesini, who is the head of, I don't know his official title, but he is the head of podcasting at ESPN, Syracuse grad. He actually just became the president of the Syracuse Alumni Board. That I'm pretty sure that's the title of it, but super involved, very helpful, great guy, love him. He came into one of my classes one time and he said, in order to be successful in sports broadcasting, you have to have relentless curiosity. I said, I have no idea what that means. Peter, can you explain it to me? And he said, yeah, you just always have to be hungry. Like you always have to be relentlessly curious. So when you get to your next job, don't be content with it. Like, don't be content with where you are. Right now, I have an amazing job. I love my job. I love my company. To have a job like the one that I do in Fort Myers and market like 54, whatever it may be right now, right out of school, unreal. Like I never thought I would get here. I never did. But I'm still not content with where I am. And once you become content, that is just going to be complacency. Like you're not going to get better if you're not relentlessly curious. So you always have to be thinking about next steps, and you have to be curious about what those next steps could be. And you have to be curious about how you can get to those next steps and how you can get better. So I'd probably say at least once a month, if not more, I go to my boss and I say, hey, can we go over my stuff and see what I can do better? What did you think about this? What about this story idea? Pitch a bunch of different things and pick as many brains as you can. Because if you're not relentlessly curious about yourself, about the future, about the industry, you're not gonna move up. You're not gonna be one of the top echelon men or women. You have to have that drive. So there you go. 3 prongs: relentless curiosity, sweat the small things, and be outgoing and reach out to people.
Great advice, great advice. Jaron, thank you so much for taking the time to do this interview with me. This show, the Respect and Praise Show, is about giving people the respect, their praise, the admiration of everything that they're doing right now. You at a young age, you're doing so far. I've seen your resume is impressive, and I can only imagine how it'll be 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now. So I'm definitely happy for you. I salute you. And, just keep going, man. Keep going.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, hopefully in, 5 to 10 years we can do this again, and hopefully it'll both of us will be in some bigger shoes.
For sure. You can bet on that. Right. That does it for this episode of the Respect and Praise Show. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Don't forget. Always remember, have mutual respect, mutual love, and mutual admiration. So stay tuned for the next episode.